Automotive Reviews. Now, the Porsche 911 GT3 RS is a spectacular car. There's nothing like it out there in the world. Let's take a look at some of these pics by Car Scoop. What a beast. Now, let's look at the technology inside the newest generation 911. And before we do that, let's take a look at some of these beautiful GT3 pics. GT3 RS pics, that is. Some of it's definitely littler than what we have ever seen. But back to the big pics. Now we look at the technology inside the newest generation 911. The 9A2 Evo engine features numerous details and refinements over its predecessor. Now the 2020 992 represents the 8th distinct generation of the Porsche 911, and it continues the company alternating pattern of a revolutionary redesign followed by an evolutionary update. While the 992 seems to be more of an evolutionary redesign, some of the details under its skin represent a revolution in terms of its construction and its electronic subsystems, along with the Porsche adaptation of corporate VW and Audi group body architecture and production processes. Now the 9A2 Evo engine of the 992 uses the same basic aluminium block structure as the 991.2, with identical bore and stroke dimensions. For a 3.0 liter displacement in both base the Carrera and the Carrera S engines, along with the iron-coated cylinder liners, VIA plasma wire transfer arc technology, known as PWTA. And of course, a lot of this information can be found in the Porsche technical writings. Now the 379 horsepower 992 Carrera and the 443 horsepower Carrera S engines produce respective gains of 9 horsepower and 23 horsepower, while also improving fuel efficiency. Porsche engineers accomplished this feat by refining many details of the engine and its ancillaries. The static compression ratio is raised from 10.01 to 10.21. And combustion efficiency is improved by using different small valve lift amounts on the adjacent intake valves of each cylinder. The asymmetrical valve lift concept has previously been used on the first generation 9PA Cayenne S V8 engine of 2003, but while that engine employed this strategy to prevent consecutive exhaust pulses from interfering with each other, the 992 engine uses a 2.0 millimeter, a 0.08 inch, and a 4.5 millimeter, which is equivalent to 0.18 inch. Now, small lift valves to promote a swirling effect. Let's take a look at this swirling effect within the cylinder, and thus enables a more homogeneous air-fuel mixture. Smaller valve lift at low engine speeds also results in less overlap of the intake and exhaust valves opening. During these conditions, which raises the dynamic compression ratio to improve cylinder filling and thus enhance off-boost engine response. The high lift setting is the same for all intake valves. Further improving efficiency is Porsche first use of Piezoelectric fuel injectors and a gasoline direct fuel injection, which is known as DF. Now again, that's another technical writing by Porsche which talks about this in more detail. Now the 2014 tech features: with the engine, there's a long mainstay in the world of common rail diesel engines. Piezo injectors enables much more precise control of the injected fuel versus the previous solenoid style injectors. A solenoid injector uses an electromagnet to lift the injector's pintail when voltage is applied, which enables fuel to exit the injectors. The worked well for the Porsche gasoline DFI engines for over 10 years, but the mass and inertia of the injector's pintails and the heavy return springs required to hold the pintails closed against the increasingly high fuel rail pressures ultimately limited the scope of the precision of the solenoid injectors. Now, inside each Piezo injector body is a stack of 100 thin wafers. Now, piezoelectric materials, all of which expand slightly when electrical current is applied. And that's just what we're looking at right now is the exhaust system. But let's go back here and just keep taking a look at this. You're talking about over 100 volts step up the transformers inside the DME engine control unit. Now, the cumulative expansion of the piezo stack serves to lift the injector pintail indirectly via a pair of small levers, which allow fuel to flow. The precision control enabled by the piezo stack minimizes the dead time associated with electromagnetic solenoids and allows up to 5 separate injections events per intake cycle at low RPM, high load conditions for optimum atomization of the injector fuel. Now, the previous solenoid injectors were limited to 3 injectors per cycle. Now, adjacent intake valves have a different small lift value to promote a homogeneous air-fuel mixture. Now, the integration of turbochargers and intercoolers within the confines of the wingless narrow-bodied 991.2 platform required clever space engineering on the part of the Porsche engineering staff. The adoption of a wide-body format across the 992 Carrera range, previously reserved for the all-wheel drive Carrera 4S models, allowed the intake configuration to be reversed, which what we do is reverse the intercoolers are now positioned at the top of the engine with a fresh air intake at the sides. This configuration allows 14% larger intercoolers and shortens the air path by up to 50%, which is a better throttle response. Now, the exhaust manifolds and the turbochargers of 992 were also refined, placing the air gap insulated sheet metal manifolds of the 991.2, which are cast iron manifolds, which are designed to be lightweight while retaining high energy that is transferred to the turbine housing of the turbochargers. All previous 10 turbocharged Porsche engines used turbochargers with compressor wheels that both rotated in the conventional clockwise direction. The 992 features symmetrical turbochargers that rotate in the opposite direction of one another to fully equalize exhaust particle flow between the 2 exhaust manifolds. Now, these new turbochargers also features Porsche first use of electric controls for the internal wastegate valves. Instead of the traditional manifold pressure reference mechanical actuators, electric stepper motors are used to precisely control wastegate position for improved boost response and control. An added benefit of these electric actuators is that they can be used to hold the wastegate valves wide open immediately following cold engine startups to maximize exhaust throughout to the catalytic converters, which helps to solve what has long been an issue with turbo engines. Electric stepper motors are also used to control the bypass flaps for the exhaust mufflers, which allows precision control in the face of an ever stringent drive by the exhaust noise regulation particulates, especially of the European Union. Now, recent EU rules for gasoline DFI engines also require the installation of particulate filters known as PF in the exhaust system, which are integrated into the catalytic converter housing. These ultrafine honeycomb matrices are designed to trap soot particles. Gasoline DFI engines do not generate as much soot as diesel engines, and the average soot particle size tends to be larger, so the grids can be designed with the larger pores to reduce exhaust back pressure. And as with diesel applications, the particulate filter system periodically regenerates or combusts and captures soot particles and prevents the trap from becoming clogged. This is achieved by the engine management system, temporarily raising exhaust gas temperatures, usually by a combination of retarding ignition timing and leaning out of the air-fuel mixtures. The higher exhaust gas temperatures of gasoline engines also help to make PF regeneration occur more frequently. Now, the European market, the 992s, have soon captured particulate filters integrated into the catalytic converters housings, what we're seeing here. Porsche claims that the restrictions of the PF system is compensated for integrating it into the catalytic converters and reducing the size of the muffler. Thus far, the PF system is only installed in the EU market cars and not in the US-bound 992s. Though the California Air Resources Board, known as CARB, is expected to advance legislation requiring PF systems on gas DFI engines in the near future. The 992 engine mounting system represents the first major change, therefore, in the history of the 911 series. Until now, every 911 had an engine bracket bolted to the pulley side of the engine crankcase, with the ends attached to the soft mount of each rear corner of the engine compartment. The 992 uses engine mount brackets, which bolt directly to the camshaft covers as the 4 cylinders, and this definitely in the 718 chassis. Now, this allows the engine mounting the most rigid without sacrificing comfort and enables the mounts to be shifted further forward in the chassis and reduce the engine torque, the effect of the drivetrain. This also improves the effectiveness of the optional Porsche Active Drive Management mount. Now, all these systems are also going to be on the Porsche GT3 RS with the same technology, such as what we see before us, the PDK transmission. Now, the 992 uses all new 8-speed PDK gearbox for power transmission. A 7-speed manual is expected to be released in the near future, but this gearbox is developed by ZF and was designed with modularity in mind, as it shares major components in its design concepts and layout with the current 971 Panamera PDK unit. As such, it also has a void within a bell housing to allow installation of an E-machine flywheel unit for the future hybrid 911. The 8 forward ratios are determined by separate loose gear wheels mounted on a pair of concentric input shafts. But to save space, some of the fixed gears are shared among ratios. The modular design also allows easy integration of the separate shafts to drive the front wheels of all the wheel drive 992 variants. This design also allows a wide variety of gear ratios to be used. When compared to the 7-speed PDK of the 991, the 992 8 gear ratios are shorter and more closely spaced. In gears 1 through 6, top speed is achieved in 6th gear, with the 7 and 8th gear being tall overdrive ratios for high-speed cruising. So this is the same technology that also rubs off into the 992 Porsche GT3 RS, which has a PDK transmission as well. Now, as with the 971 version, the internal drag and friction is reduced by using a single low viscosity fluid for both lubrication of the gear clusters and differential gears, and also as a hydraulic fluid for engaging in the clutches and the shift and the rod actuators. The fluid pump is a tandem affair with an electrically controlled demand base pump used for the hydraulic actuators and a separate gear rotor style pump for gear wheel lubrication. This is driven by the pinion output shaft to increase the rate of lubrication with the road speed. This is just some of the technology that's inside this Porsche engine, which is awesome, folks. Now, the front drive shafts and the differential unit of the all-wheel drive, particularly the Carrera 4 and the 4S, and the future turbo versions, has also been refined for efficiency in terms of bearing and seat design. The front differential housing and clutch chambers are now water-cooled to manage the heat generated by the improved actuating torque and realizes by the latter. The cooling circuit is demand-based to save energy and allow rapid warm-up of the differential fluid after a cold start, which is just awesome, folks. Now let's take a quick look at the body and chassis. While Porsche has used a modular chassis platform for its mid and rear engine sports cars since the days of the 986 and 996, the new 992 chassis aligns with the corporate VW and Audi chassis nomenclature, with its MMB, known as the modular mid-engine platform designation. The composition of the previous 991 was already quite aluminium intensive, but the 992 takes this to the new heights, with over 70% of its structure being aluminium. High-strength steel is reserved for critical passenger safety areas, such as the A and the B pillars, and the door jambs. Again, the 992 follows the lead of the 971 with an all-aluminium body side panel, which is attached to the chassis via a special cramping technique. This process occurs in the all-new 3-story body production plant at Wissock, which produces bodies for the 718 and 992 and the up-and-coming Taycan electric car. This plant features revamped production techniques and processes that are being implemented throughout the VW and Audi group to improve production efficiency and reduce the environmental impact of the automaking process. The most noticeable change for the 992 body are the wider front and the rear fenders, which are required to provide coverage to a track width of 45 millimeters, equivalent to 1.8 inches wider up front, and 44 millimeters, which is 1.7 inches wider at the rear. The wheels themselves also feature staggered wheel diameters, for the first time measuring 19 inches in the front and 20 inches in the rear. For the base Carrera, 20 and 21 inches for the Carrera S. Porsche says the larger wheels, or larger rear tire contact patch, aids traction and stability, while the larger tire carcass allows better heat management. This is a lot of information, and it particularly does roll over into the GT3 RS. As you look at the shell of this, many of it also resembles. Now the 992 carries over to the 991 proven braking system. Now with 330 millimeters, which is 13-inch disc, and 4 piston calibers all around the base Carrera, with the S models using 350 millimeters, which is 13.8-inch disc, 6 piston calibers up front. Now the brake pad components are all new in response to the recent EU environmental regulations banning the use of copper in brake linings. This metal made up of 20% of the previous pad compounds. Porsche also replaced the vacuum brake boosters of the 991 with a smaller, lighter electronic brake booster, which allows a more direct paddle ratio for better brake feel. Leaving no stone unturned, Porsche managed to save mass as the brake paddle itself by constructing it from the same special organic sheet metal used for the 918 supercar paddle, which cuts pedal mass by 41% while being stiffer than the previous plastic version. And it goes on and on, folks. But this is just just bringing some more understanding to the GT3 RS technology. There's expected to be more. This is just a little. And we'll fly through this, especially these little pictures, to get back to this one. Guys, this is AO Automotive Reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, share, and subscribe.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more interesting videos.